And today I'm going to talk about what we learned developing qualnotes, which is a mobile mapping app. This project is funded by Stockholm University, Venture Arm, and the PI of the project is Danielle, who's sitting in the fourth row there. Hello. I'm not a geographer, maybe you noticed. Danielle is a geographer. And the goal of this presentation is to encourage people to write papers, but also publish the software, because I think it can have so much more impact. So before I proceed, I'd like to ask here, who has done collection of data in the field? Raise your hands. And of those, who has used mobile walking methods? Great, so this app is for you. Right. And so what we're trying to accomplish, and I think you're familiar with all these objects here, is to replace all these objects that probably you use for your field collection with the smartphone. And now another question, why mobile mapping is important? I'm probably the least qualified person here to answer this question, but I think we all know that every collection method can collect different things, and we miss a lot of things if we don't do mobile mapping. Now, how did this get started? So I met Danielle in Stockholm last year, and she showed me how she teaches mobile walking methods at Stockholm University, and I saw she was using a commercial hiking app called Rambler. And me being a computer scientist, I thought, well, we could do better. So I proposed to her that we use or we develop our own purpose-built app for this. And so that's how we started. And the first thing we did is to develop paper prototypes. Those of you familiar with UX UI might know this. So this is just a sketch of, it's very good for concepting the idea. And paper prototypes are great because the cost of erasing a screen is very cheap. And so people are not against changing the design, which is very important to iterate. And so it's very important to do this step. Then we develop a hi-fi prototype using Figma. Who of you know Figma? All right, so Figma is a high-fidelity collaborative software that lets you develop things. So here you have 5 screens that we develop very quickly. Here we would have a route and a photo pin in one of the locations. Then we develop a functional prototype. So here in the middle you can see myself, I marked some points while I was on the bus in Stockholm, right? So the color denotes if it's a photo or an audio or just a text. And so the functional prototype was very important to test that you can actually build this with the technology you chose, and it works. And we published this app in the summer in the App Store, so you can check it out and make your own maps. And this is how the app looks today. On the right side, you see the simulator. And on the left, you see the code editor we chose to develop this. It's Visual Code Studio, developed by Microsoft. Very important to choose the right editor. It can save you so much time. Right, so I'm gonna show you a little bit the screens, how the app looks today. So when the researcher will log in, she would see her projects. So in my case, I have 11 projects here. I'm gonna go inside one of them. There's a series of tasks we always have to do when we start a project. And this has to do with the consent forms and compliance. And these are so annoying because if you miss one of these, you might get in trouble. So we thought to when you start a new project, to set up the steps that we have to do. And the most important one is to set up the consent forms. So here, for example, the researcher would be on the phone and he would be able to show this to some interviewee. This is the consent form that everybody has to sign. And then the interviewee could use the finger to sign the form, and then it gets stored. Automatically saves so much time. Then you would get out of it, and maybe you could add a map, for example, and so you would start mapping, for example. Another function we added is the ability to do interviews. So, for example, here you have The interview is already recording over there. You see a small thumbnail of the movie being recorded, and an important thing about the interviews is to have a schedule of questions to look professional. And so the app lets you create these questions and check each question as you ask it, so that later it's timestamped and you can go back quickly, and then you would have it there, some like AAG demo, and you could go back and review it in the comfort of your office or your web interface, and maybe add a reflection note, edit, and so on. So that's more or less the app. So what we learned? So the first thing we learned, so we got some money to hire developers. It's extremely challenging to manage developers because, as you know, IT is about knowledge. So to be a good manager, you need to know more than the person you manage, right? And this is usually the opposite in IT. The manager knows less. And that's where we have all these problems and conflicts, and I think Sheldon illustrates perfectly the case. Another important thing we learned doing this project, anybody recognize this? This is called the floating action button. It became mainstream this year. Those of you who have Outlook mobile app, you've seen it there, right? It's from this year. And so it's just to say that the IT goes so fast. When we designed the app, this was not mainstream. We didn't think of using this. It became mainstream. We had to redesign the app to accommodate for this new trend. So the speed is so crazy that's one thing. I think the other thing is we open source the project. Why is this important? Because good developers are not motivated by money. They're motivated by other things. So that helps you recruit higher quality talent. And another important tip, if you plan to develop your own software, is get expert advice. This is so important. It can save you so much money and time. And the other is the tools you will choose, the same story. And this is so hard, mostly because technology evolves so fast. We are using Flutter, the Google platform, and some of the libraries we are using were developed 6 months ago. So that's how fast this goes. And then there's the story of the vitamins versus painkillers. When we developed the app, we thought that the most important feature is the mobile mapping and the interviews. But actually, the most important feature, the reason why people will pay money to use this app, is the time they save with the consent management. And so that's the Silicon Valley expression, sell me painkillers, not vitamins. But we didn't know this. When we started the project, we thought, the mobile mapping is the important part. No, it's the consent form. That's the thing. Finally, paper versus code. I hope to see more software papers. And the thing with a paper, you write it, you publish it, you forget about it, maybe you get 40 citations if you're lucky. But if you write software, you might be able to have a really high impact, help other people to write papers, and that's really good. All right, so thanks a lot.